The dawn broke cold and colorless over the hills of Querétaro. Mist clung to the earth, and the faint clatter of sabers echoed in the distance. A crowd gathered below Cerro de las Campanas, whispering prayers, curses, or nothing at all. At the center of this stillness stood a man who had once called himself Emperor, Emperor Maximilian of Mexico, born Archduke of Austria, brother to Emperor Franz Joseph, groomed in palaces where every gesture was drenched in ceremony. He had come across the ocean, draped in royal dreams and delusions, believing he could tame a republic born of revolution. But now, surrounded by Mexican soldiers, he was just another condemned man awaiting death. For months, he had clung to hope that Napoleon III would send help, that his wife Carlotta would persuade the courts of Europe to intervene, that someone, anyone, would remember the empire France had promised him. But by June 1867, his empire was dust. Carlotta had gone mad. His allies were dead or fled. The firing squad was his final audience. Inside the Capuchin convent where he was held, the stone walls seemed to close in each night. He would pace the cell, whispering to the flicker of a candle, writing farewell letters with a trembling hand. He sent locks of his hair, tokens of love, and words of regret to a world that had already forgotten him. Each sunrise was torture, each sunset an omen. On the morning of June 19, 1867, footsteps approached. The heavy bolts slid open. Soldiers entered with solemn faces. "It is time," one said. Maximilian rose slowly, straightened his jacket, and nodded. He walked to the mirror one last time. The reflection that stared back was pale and thin, but proud. He refused to die as a prisoner. He would die as an emperor. He dressed carefully, black jacket embroidered in gold, white gloves, his imperial sash across his chest. His boots shone, though dust had already claimed the morning. He whispered to his aide, "Tell my mother I thought of her." Then he stepped into the light. The sound of distant drums began to rise, steady and dreadful, marking the march of the condemned. The carriage waited. As it rattled through the streets, the people watched in silence. Some spat, others crossed themselves. They had seen French bayonets burn their villages, Austrian officers order their sons to kneel. To them, this foreign emperor was the face of their suffering. Yet even his enemies could not look away as he passed. So calm, so human, so doomed. At Cerro de las Campanas, the sun had begun to break through the haze. The ground was uneven, stony, the air thin and cruel. Before him stood the line of soldiers, 12 men, rifles glinting. A priest followed close behind, whispering prayers in Latin. The wind stirred the dust into small whirls around Maximilian's boots, as if the earth itself were restless. General Miramon and General Mejia stood beside him, loyal to the end. They exchanged nods, men bound by failure and fate. The priest offered them confession. Each man accepted in silence. When it was done, Maximilian removed his hat and addressed the soldiers with steady voice. "I forgive everyone, and I ask everyone to forgive me. Long live Mexico." He handed a gold coin to each of the riflemen. It was not bribery, it was mercy. "Aim here," he said, touching his heart. "Spare my face." The captain hesitated, eyes wet, hands trembling. He gave the command. "Ready." The soldiers raised their rifles. The priest stepped back. The world held its breath. "Fire!" The volley cracked through the morning, a burst of smoke. The echo rolled across the hills. Maximilian's body jerked backward as the bullet struck his chest and neck. He collapsed slowly, almost gracefully, his white gloves staining red as he fell. The imperial sash, bright moments ago, darkened with blood. His crownless head struck the earth with a dull thud. General Miramon fell next, shouting something lost to the wind. General Mejia followed, his body twisting in agony before lying still. The smoke drifted away, silence returned, even the wind paused. Then came the murmurs, the crowd gasping, crossing themselves, whispering that the emperor's eyes had remained open even in death. The soldiers lowered their rifles. Some turned away, unable to look. Others stared, stone-faced, as the priest knelt beside the fallen. Maximilian's crucifix still hung from his hand. The gold glinted faintly in the sun. Blood had soaked the dust around him, forming a dark halo beneath his body. The hill had its sacrifice. They carried his corpse down through the streets. No trumpets, no procession, only the hollow sound of boots on stone. A few women wept quietly as he passed. Perhaps they wept not for him, but for what the war had done to their sons, their homes, their country. The empire had died, but so had a man who never truly ruled it. In Europe, word of the execution spread like wildfire. Courtiers in Vienna were horrified. Napoleon III denied responsibility. Carlotta, his beloved empress, suffered a complete mental collapse. For years, she wandered the halls of palaces, whispering to phantoms, calling for her husband to return. But he never would. Maximilian's body was eventually shipped back to Austria in a coffin of lead. When it arrived, Franz Joseph refused to look upon it. The empire buried its shame in silence. But in Mexico, the hill where he died became a symbol of justice for some, tragedy for others, and the cruel certainty that foreign crowns cannot root in foreign soil. Time passed. The wind eroded the stones where his blood had fallen. A monument now stands where he faced the guns, 3 crosses marking the spot. Tourists visit, snapping photos, unaware of the cold dread that once hung in the air. But those who linger swear they feel it still, the ghost of an emperor watching the rifles rise again. Maximilian's death was more than execution. It was the final echo of empire, the end of Europe's dream of dominion in the New World. His arrogance was met with bullets, his ambition buried beneath the soil he tried to claim. He died believing he brought peace, but his death only sealed the wound he came to heal. In Querétaro, they still say that when the dawn mist rises over Cerro de las Campanas, you can see 3 figures standing side by side, waiting for the command. And if you listen closely, beneath the wind, you'll hear a voice whisper, "Aim well." History remembers emperors by their crowns, but Maximilian is remembered by the smoke that rose after the rifles fired. A man who tried to rule a nation he never understood and paid for it with his life. If you stood on that hill, what would you have felt? Justice, sorrow, or pity? Tell me below. And if this story left a chill in your bones, wait until you hear about the man executed by elephant, the death of a Persian general. India, 4th century BC.